Alright everybody, what's up? Back again, Twin Peaks Season 3 review. It's Episode 6, so let's get started. Alright, well we start kind of back off where we ended up last episode with Dougie Cooper still hanging around that statue of a law enforcement officer of some sort. He, as you'll see, he notices the badge of the officer. It's asking him some questions and kind of gets infatuated with it a bit, so maybe another symbol of, reminds him of Sheriff Truman, or the fact that he was a law enforcement agent himself and had his own badge. He gets a ride home from the police, and of course more drama with the wife. After Dougie and Sonny Jim play a clap on, clap off with the lights, there's a phone call. His wife picks up, and it's apparently the guys that he owes money to for some reason. And she sets up a meeting to pay off what he owes. A big day tomorrow, indeed. Possible foreshadowing. He runs his finger over the 7 symbol on the insurance folder. Case files. Remember, they're case files. We see our friend the traffic light again, which popped up quite a bit during the original run. Usually a red light, kind of swaying in the breeze at the intersection of what, Sparkwood and 21 or something like that. I think Sparkwood and 21 sounds about right. This time we had a little of electrical disturbance and a shift to the Black Lodge, which kind of make that connection between that electricity and the spotlight. Always seemed like there was something ominous going on. And we see Mike inside the lodge, wandering about, kind of with his hand up as if he's kind of looking for something, or perhaps reaching out to someone. Dougie Cooper, back at his home, working on the case files, I guess in whatever manner he can, given he's not all there, looks over and sees Mike appear again on the carpet. We see the pattern overlaid with the zigzag of the lodge, basically giving Dale a message, even though this Dale still can't completely recognize or remember who this character is. Basically says, you have to wake up and don't die. And when he says don't die, he almost seems kind of panicked or almost kind of upset in the tone of his voice, Mike's voice, that is. And then he vanishes. Cooper looks at a burglary claim form. Looks like from Vegas. There's a hotel owner listed there named Jake Cavallo. I'm not sure if he's relevant to the story, possibly. Some kind of break-in occurred, I guess, at the hotel. Maybe it was Bob, or maybe it was one of Bob's associates, or maybe it was somebody connected with Dougie Jones. Hard to say. And we see the kind of a little shiny spot of light appear on the paper, and Cooper takes up the pencil and starts kind of marking a spot on there. And on the next page, we see a couple different spots of light. One is moving kind of down top to bottom across the page, so it's kind of hinting it to Dale or Dougie where to mark lines on the paper. Almost kind of like, maybe in a way like the Black Lodge symbol over the slot machines was kind of guiding him somehow to complete his work. Yeah, I don't know. Some kind of supernatural force, maybe White Lodge spirits are trying to help him out or something, or maybe it's something else. It's hard to say. He draws what looks to be like a ladder and some stairs, and I'm not sure what the significance of this is just yet. Albert driving in the rain. Rest in peace, Miguel Ferrer. Yeah, I believe he didn't pass all that much after they'd shot most of the show, so that's too bad. I think if I remember the name of the movie right, if you want to see a movie with him in the lead, Miguel Ferrer, that is, I think it's Night Flyer, Stephen King. It's like a vampire take on the vampire myth. It's pretty good, and he's the star of it. And he kind of plays kind of an Albert Rosenfeld kind of grouchy kind of guy. So if you ever wanted to watch him in a lead role, that Night Flyer is pretty good. It's a decent horror movie. He does not. Albert doesn't feel like singing in the rain, apparently. Enters a club and makes his way up and around and through to the people. And to someone who's sitting at the bar who turns around and whom he addresses as Diane. And apparently this is the one that might be able to know where to find him, apparently. And this is, whoa, is this the Diane? I'm assuming so. The Diane that Cooper always spoke to, recorded messages for on his little handheld recorder. Yeah. And lo and behold, look who's playing the role of Diane. None other than Mrs. Laura Dern. Quite appropriate, given she's a Lynch alumni of sorts. She's been in a few of his films. Yeah, and most recently was in Inland Empire. So yeah, that's pretty cool. We get a character that I assume we would never see in the flesh, or would always be kind of a this kind of enigmatic character that never had a face, that we could recognize, and just was kind of someone that Dale communicated with in one direction. But we get her as a character, and she's played by a Lynch alumni, as I said, in Laura Dern. So that's pretty damn cool. All right, Richard Horn. Now that I know from all the commenters in the comment section who this guy is, I will know his name for the rest of my life. Yeah, it looks like we're at the sawmill, or a sawmill. Yeah, sawmill memories, always something going on there. I get apparently either arson plots or drug deals, as we see here. And this drug dealer is kind of an interesting character. Kind of reminds me of some of the these kind of weird enigmatic characters that we see in some of the different Lynch films. Kind of like the cowboy from Mulholland Drive, or the mystery man that Robert Blake plays in Lost Highway. But I would say that this guy, out of all the Lynch kind of bad guy characters, reminds me probably the most of someone you may have also thought of as old Frank Booth from Blue Velvet, played by Dennis Hopper. Kind of like a toned down version of him is what he kind of reminded me of a little bit. So yeah, some interesting things going on between that interaction between this guy and old Richard. And if you were paying attention, you might recognize that this drug dealer is none other than Balthazar Getty, who was, who was one of the two main male leads in Lost Highway. So, interesting. He does a great job playing Red. So yeah, it's kind of cool. We've got both Laura Dern and Balthazar Getty here, up with new roles introduced in this series, and he does a great job. He's one of those actors that is lesser known, but I think he's a pretty good actor overall. So yeah, it's a very Lynch type scene, if you will, with the whole the coin flip and the crazy kind of enigmatic character that we see in Red. So we get that. Usually it's a quarter, but he's actually got a dime. Holds it out in his hand, then flips it, and he's got kind of this slow motion going on thing. Looks like it's hanging up in the air. Make Two-Face jealous. And as Richard perceives the coin falling, he actually reaches into his mouth and finds it there. But then the dime falls into to Red's hand, and he's sitting there kind of like, what the hell is going on here? So, yeah, pretty cool scene. Definitely something that's very classic Lynch when he brings in kind of a villain type character like we see with Red here. Apparently, if the coin lands on tails, Richard loses, and if it lands on heads, Red wins. So Richard... you may have bitten off more than you can chew. He's certainly no Jean Reno. I think Red is I hated Jean Reno. I was so glad when he got killed. But this guy's pretty cool. So yeah, I like that. Yeah, Balthazar Getty has got a role in there. Hopefully he'll be not just a bit player, and maybe he'll have a bigger role in a few of the later episodes. But yeah, definitely cool take on kind of what has become a kind of a mystery-ish villain that Lynch has had in certain films that he's made. So definitely cool scene, very memorable. All right, now we're going back to some more memory lane, old Fat Trout Trailer Park, which we first saw in the Fire Walk with Me movie. And I didn't realize Harry Dean Stanton was still alive. God damn, he's got to be in his 90s by now. So I guess a cup of Good Morning America must grant some kind of immortality, because Carl is still kicking, and I wonder if he still has that sign on his door, tell him, don't knock until after 9. So yeah, it was cool to see Harry Dean Stanton again as Carl. Like I said, he was just in there for a very brief time, but he's got a lot of knowledge of some of the weird, of the supernatural stuff that went on, at least with regards to Teresa Banks. And as we'll see soon, that another kind of supernatural event kind of works its way, crosses paths with him. There we got Heidi with the squirrel giggle. Oh man, it's kind of cool that they just were able to bring some of these people back that just like had kind of the bit roles, because she was basically at the first episode and the last episode of the Twin Peaks doing the whole too busy jump starting the old man gag. I thought you Germans were always on time. Richard's still excuse me, Richard's still freaking out from this little encounter, or I guess most of us would, especially if you had snorted coke right before that guy did his little sleight of hand magic trick. Carl's hanging out at the park, watching mom and son chase after each other. When he looks up into the trees, I don't know if he sees something or not. When the second time he looks up, it may just be me, but I was like waiting for like in the movie Predator, Arnold Schwarzenegger, when you see those lights, the lights flash and then disappear, and you see the movement of that light bending camouflage, those branches and those leaves. I was just waiting. It's like it almost be like a perfect spoof if there, if that scene had something, more to it. At least him sitting there, see those eyes flash, because that's just what it reminded me of. But anyway, Richard apparently tails you loose, and so does that poor kid, because he decides to drive down the wrong way on the street and wipes out this poor kid. And that gal that's was eating all that pie, talking to Heidi, IDs him, so she may be in danger. And it's kind of cool. We get this scene where you see Carl looks and sees kind of the fire, motif descend up into the sky. So, as we saw in the last episode of season 2, where Bob takes Windom Earle's soul, fire, I guess, is supposed to be literally the soul, or symbolic of the soul, or something like that, because it's kind of like the kid's soul ascended to heaven or something like that. That's my interpretation of it. And we also see the light pole with the number 6 on it, which harkens back to the Fat Trout Trailer Park scene where Chester Desmond was there, and we hear the noise the arm made going across the wire. So electricity at it again. So maybe the kid is gone off to the White Lodge, or maybe even the innocent and the young have to face their doppelganger at the Black Lodge. Hard to say. Interesting scene. Pretty cool though. Carl it was almost like Carl was there. I was hoping that they'd give him some kind of dialogue, or at least something to comfort the mother. Though maybe she was comforted by him, but from what he had seen, he'd seen something miraculous. Anyway, back in Vegas, this is the guy that had that bit part in Mulholland Drive that I'd mentioned in another episode. He's at his laptop, and this kind of little red square kind of slowly appears under the screen. He clicks off of it and goes over to a safe and sets an envelope of some sort on the desk that has a black dot on it. And yeah, look at in a Lenovo ThinkPad. I mean, thank God we don't have to see another goddamn Mac or AirBook or something getting product placement in the show. It's a Lenovo ThinkPad. What do you know? They're actually pretty good. for that sort of work. I know. Rancho Rosa Estates. Rancho Rosa is also the name of one of the production companies of the show, so they kind of threw that in there as a gag, I assume. 119. I wonder if we'll ever get to figure out what this junkie's talking about. 119. So a piece of Dougie's car flew up on the neighbor's roofs. They're investigating that, so at least they've got an ID so they can tell him that his car went kaboom. And then we see some kind of short person, little guy in a cheap motel, who's throwing a pair of dice and writing down the combos on of the numbers that show up on his little notepad or something. So it's kind of interesting. Knock on the door, and there's that envelope with the black dot on it. We see a picture of a woman, and we see a picture of Dougie Jones, and the little guy apparently has an ice pick, which will become relevant later. Yeah, so interesting, and he kind of checks out and examines photos and stabs both of them, so maybe he's a hitman. We'll find out. Agent Cooper Dougie Cooper in his black suit, looking sharp, amused by the simplest things there are in life, like elevator doors opening and closing, and enjoying a damn good cup of coffee. Yeah, primary colors for office decor. It looks like something that more suitable for a preschool playground. Hideous. Yeah, I almost didn't even notice Tom Sizemore. I had to go and double check the credits. Because I had figured it was him, but so it is Tom Sizemore. Wonder if he's going to be in some trouble. So initially it looks like those dots, those little sparkly dots of light that appeared on the paper don't translate to the language the boss speaks. Or maybe Dougie's just an idiot savant. Eventually he looks at some of the pages and draws some conclusions from them. I didn't want to spend a bunch of time sitting there analyzing that scene. So if any of you guys know the connection or figured it out from his drawings on the paper and what they're interpreted as, feel free to post it in the comments to let everybody else know. I just didn't want to sit there and try to, kill a half hour sitting there trying to make up a theory about it. So apparently there's something not kosher about the insurance claims, and I'm sure it's gonna get Dougie in hot water. Maybe that's why that little dude is going to come after him, perhaps, because it has to do with it has to do with some hotel in Vegas. We had the guy in Vegas with the envelope, sending that to the little guy. So yeah, there's something there. So yeah, we see some white trash bookies. Oh God, straight out the trailer. Get enough money to hopefully put Dougie in the clear. But yeah, that may not be the end of it for Dougie's dangers, because I don't know if I have a feeling there's no connection between those two guys being just sport bookies and the little short assassin. Who's named Ike the Spike Statler. So it's interesting. Yeah, I looked at the credits this time, guys. I made sure and watched them from start to finish, so I saw all of that. Thank you very much. I will keep that in mind every time I watch another episode. So yeah, was that brutal as hell or what? You just hear the scream. And this, I don't know. There's two different words. There's dwarfs, and then there's little people that have. That their arms and limbs and everything, they're basically just, they don't have the short, pudgy hands, like the Tyrion, the gentleman that plays Tyrion Lannister. I can't remember his name. I should. Anyway. So he's, it's like a miniature person, but he's in, proportionally Peter Dinklage, that's right. Him compared to this guy who's just shorter down. He's probably like 4 foot or something, but he's, proportionally like a normal person. So it's kind of weird in a way. But yeah, God, he runs in there with that ice pick and just goes to town. Oh God, that was brutal as hell. Couldn't get away with that on CBS. Ike the Spike. And the poor guy bent his ice pick. Probably, I'm sure there's more where that came from. Yeah, so, Richard, if is it just me, or does he look like he's straight out of some 50s movie about racial struggles in the South or something, the way he's dressed? I swear he's straight out of, like, a 50s period piece about, you know, civil rights or something, just the way he's dressed and the vehicle he's driving. He's just missing a southern accent. Yeah, Richard, you might want to try ammonia or bleach there, pal. I don't think water gets rid of the DNA. All right, and here's a bit of interesting coincidence that may or may not be coincidence, but it looks like a coin falls out of Hawk's pocket that looks like a dime. I wonder what it'll be. Well, it looks like it's heads, and it's an Indian head even. And from that vantage point, Hawk looks over and sees a like a manufacturing, like a badge for the whoever makes those bathroom doors, and it's a Nez Perce with the Indian headdress. Looks up from that to see a screw or a bolt or something that's come loose from the door. So I think Hawk, remember they were looking for Indians, or Andy and Hawk were when they were looking through all the files. So I think fate just tipped you off, Hawk. And yeah, by the way, fuck off, Chad. I can't stand this guy. I don't think anybody else can either. Another ginger douchebag. Wonder if he's related to that drug addict kid. So Hawk removes the metal cover on the stall door, and voila. He gets some pieces of paper or notes, or I don't know, diary pages or something along those lines. So we'll have to, unfortunately, we will have to wait and see what those mean. Next episode, looks like. And here comes the sheriff's psycho wife, and I knew I recognized her from somewhere. That is Candy Clark. And she, if you know, was a famous character, at least famous, or part of the famous George Lucas film, American Graffiti. So yeah, she's still alive. She's age of 69, it looks like. So yep, she played Debbie Dunham in American Graffiti, which was interesting because the guy that she hung out with, Terry, or at least kind of hooked up with and hung out with, was nicknamed the Toad, and we have a Toad in Twin Peaks, the kind of fat trucker guy that always ate there. So, little unrelated trivia, but yeah, if you recognized her and you've seen American Graffiti, that is Candy Clark. And again, fuck off, Chad. I don't know. Hopefully something grisly's gonna happen to him, because I don't know. He's just there to be an asshole. So, hopefully he gets maybe Bob or somebody will come and tear his soul out. Anyway. Yep, another indie band to wrap out the show. I'm not sure who the band is. I didn't waste any time looking that up, because it's not my kind of music, so I figure they haven't snuck anything at the very end after the credits and stuff, so I just bounce after all that stuff's taken care of. And well, like I said, we'll have to wait and see what happens next week, what notes Hawk's found, and so on and so forth. So, alright guys, comment in the comment section, add anything there. Like I said, if you noticed anything that I missed, please point it out. And I'll see you next week after episode 7 has been viewed and reviewed. Take it easy.